Good morning. Happy Thursday. For those of you who have never caught me live before, my name is Jewel. I am a grateful recovering addict. I will celebrate 9 years clean in August. Today, Joe and I are doing a special live in memory of his mom. There he is. Lucy, how are you? Hey, Joe.
What's up, y'all?
I'm glad that the man next door is done cutting the grass because I was worried when I got up and heard him cutting the grass this morning.
A little bit early for that. Right?
Yeah. Well, usually he comes in the afternoon. But Miss Terry's home now, so I don't know if that's why he came or what. So.
All right, I'm gonna start this out.
Okay. I haven't even had a cigarette yet today, Joe. The medicine they had me on, I haven't slept well. So. Hey, Miss Patty. Phew. Let me see. Yeah, you're gonna share it. I'm not gonna worry about inviting people because it's not.
I just share it out.
Okay, so do you want me to start with the gist for today? I didn't really have like a agenda or anything. I just wanted to do something, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna read from the gist for today. This is actually the book that Wendy gave me in April last year. So today is May 2nd, just maybe. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. Basic text, page 18. Hey Jamie, good luck on your test today. When we first came to NA, many of us had great difficulty accepting the spiritual principles underlying this program, and for good reason. No matter how we tried to control our addiction, we found ourselves powerless. We grew angry and frustrated with anyone who suggested there was hope for us, because we knew better. Spiritual ideas may have had some bearing on other people's lives, but not on ours. Despite our indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles, we were drawn to Narcotics Anonymous. There we met other addicts. They'd been where we'd been, powerless and hopeless, yet they'd found a way not only to stop using, but to live and enjoy life clean. They spoke of the spiritual principles that had pointed the way for them to this new life of recovery. For them, these principles were not just theories, but a part of their practical experience. Yes, we had good reason to be skeptical, but these spiritual principles spoken of by other NA members really seemed to work. Once we admitted this, we didn't necessarily accept every single spiritual idea we heard, but we did start to think that if these principles had worked for others, just maybe they'd work for us too. For a beginning, that willingness was enough. Just for today, just maybe the spiritual principles I hear spoken of in NA might work for me. I am willing at least to open my mind to the possibility. Hey, Crystal. Not necessarily every day. I did? Jamie, I did, or you did? Crystal, I don't read them. We go live a couple times a week. And I always read them when we go live. But I also, I have a March into Recovery page. I share the gist for today every day on there. If you're looking somewhere to find it every day. Also, somebody said they have an app also.
Jamie didn't, and neither did you.
Are you telling me to?
Jamie's saying.
What was her clean date? August 2nd? I mean, not August 2nd. That's my birthday. August 1st? Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was it August 1st? Right?
I don't know.
I think it was. Jamie, do you know? You still on here? It's terrible that I don't remember.
Jamie's taking her test to get certified today.
I think so.
This is your second time taking it, right? And this
I
her
think
second
so.
time?
Last year on this day, she
Good luck today.
was in Salisbury, like taking
You got this.
classes or something. Well, I think it's August 1st, so I'm gonna go with August 1st. So the August 1st just for today is freedom from guilt. Our addiction enslaved us. We were prisoners of our own mind and were condemned by our own guilt. Basic text, page 7. Guilt is one of the most commonly encountered stumbling blocks in recovery. One of the more notorious forms of guilt is the self-loathing that results when we try to forgive ourselves but don't feel forgiven. How can we forgive ourselves so we feel it? First, we remember that guilt and failure are not links in an unbreakable chain. Honestly, sharing with a sponsor and with other addicts shows this to be true. Often the result of such sharing is a more sensible awareness of the part we ourselves have played in our affairs. Sometimes we realize that our expectations have been too high. We increase our willingness to participate in the solutions rather than dwelling on the problems. Somewhere along the way, we discover who we really are. We usually find that we are neither the totally perfect nor the totally imperfect beings we have imagined ourselves to be. We need not live up to it or down to our illusions. We need only live in reality. Just for today, I am grateful for my assets and accept my liabilities. Through willingness and humility, I am freed to progress in my recovery and achieve freedom from guilt. Good morning, Ashley. Love you. Hey, Heather. I think it was August 1st because I know it was. I can't remember now. Yeah, she did. And that's what I tell people a lot of times when I talk about her is that I feel like the grief group is really what helped her this go around. That it really made a difference this time for her. Because I know that she carried a lot of stuff on her. And I feel like she was finally able to let that go.
Yeah, I think that was probably her biggest. It was probably her biggest downfall. And why it took her so long, because she felt guilty about all the shit that she did
Yeah.
to brother and I, and all the shit she did to other people, and she felt guilty about just wasting all those years. Because when she went back out the last time, it was like sort of a trickle down effect. I talked about it before. Um, she did good for a long time. She got clean a little bit. She got clean when I was really young, around the time when my brother was a baby, and she stayed clean for many, many years. And she hurt her back, and became kind of dependent on her pain meds. She had multiple back surgeries. She ended up having degenerative disc disease, and so she kind of leaned on her medication. Then she had, had to get screws put in her neck, and it was just like she was fighting against the odds of being clean, because with all the physical stuff she had going on, the pain medications like slowly started to become a problem. She started to abuse it, and then by the time I was, I believe, a junior or a senior in high school, she went back to street drugs, and she started, smoking crack again, and doing dope and all that type of shit. Um, and me and her got in a fight. She put me out the house, and she pretty much stayed. She stayed out there. She stayed out until she got clean this last time. And I'm 20. I'll be 30 in a week or so. So you know, she she stayed out there for like a good, I would say probably a good 12 years, um, right around there.
Mm.
She got clean. She was clean up until the day she passed away. But when she went back out there that last time, she stayed out there for so long because it was like, I feel like every 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 time she would do something and there would be some big stuff going on, or I feel like she feels like she abandoned us, which she kind of did to a degree. And I feel like that guilt kept her out there longer this time
Mm.
around. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because she didn't have her family unit. She didn't have her long time boyfriend with her anymore. So it was just like who was my stepdad. So she really didn't have anybody, and I was out doing my own thing. My brother was had me to look out for him. So she really, I think she just felt like she really didn't have anything to want to get clean
Yeah.
for. And it was just I feel like once you fuck up, then you feel like, oh, it's too late. And I feel like that's the mistake a lot of people make. They let one mistake turn into a lifetime of
Right.
mistakes because they feel like once they fuck up once, then
Right.
it's over. It's like it's not over. As long as you're breathing, as long as you wake up the next day, you always have a chance to change and fix it. The longer you stay out there and the longer you run and the longer you stay in active addiction, the more damage you cause to yourself, the more heartache you cause for all the people around you that care about you. Um, and you're just making it worse when you could just, you know, put that same energy into fighting for your
Yeah.
recovery. She also held on to her past, shit from her childhood, and it's just like I talk about all the time. I just talked about it the day before yesterday, the day before that. We can always make
Yeah.
excuses. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We can always make excuses as to why we're using drugs or why we're drinking alcohol or why we're getting fucked up all the
Right.
time. Everybody in the world has a
Yeah.
reason, but there is no valid reason. You know what I mean? Um, so April 1st was her clean date then?
No, she was 7 months clean on April 1st. So she was 8 months clean on May 1st. So May, April, March, February, January, December, November, October. No, that's not right. I have to look because she had been arrested. So it's on case search. And I believe she was arrested July 31st. And that's why I think she celebrated her clean date for August 1st. Right? Joe, you and her, your clean dates weren't that far apart. Oh, because yours was at the end of the month. Yours was like the 30th, right?
Yeah, I got sober um the same month of my birthday.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just feel like that's what kept her out there, and it got to the point where um throughout the years when my mom was using drugs and stuff like that, um she maintained for a little while, but eventually she couldn't maintain anymore, and eventually she was homeless, and she was in and out of jail. um I tell a story about she ended up moving to Salisbury, and I always tell a story about I remember going to meet her one time in Salisbury. It's like one of the first times I've seen her in a really long time. um and I stopped at the liquor store, or the gas station to get some beer or whatever. And she was standing outside the store. I didn't even recognize her. She walked up to me, and my mom's like 5'10", 5'11", and she's always been like 180, 200 pounds. Um, because she's really tall, you know. But
Yeah.
I could have I could have bumped into her and not known who it was, you know what I mean? Because she was so skinny.
Yeah.
She had on a pair of denim overalls. Um, I don't even know if she had a t-shirt underneath. She might have just had like a wife beater or something. And no shoes in the middle of Salisbury, no shoes. She probably weighed 110 pounds with that. You know what I'm saying? Um, so it's just like growing up with a mother that's, somebody that's wholesome and caring and loving and strong and independent and works hard and, takes you on vacations and buys you nice clothes for school and, for you to run into her, years later and see that person and it's just like it's devastating. And that's the kind of person that you become. You become so far from yourself. You know what I'm saying? You become the furthest thing from who you really are and who you were meant to be in this world. You're missing out on your calling in life. You're missing out on, you know, all the things that life has to offer, all over what? It just seems so stupid to me now, later in life. It just seems so, uh, such a
Yeah.
waste. Uh, I'm in Texas right now, and since I've been in Texas, the homeless population is a little bit different out here now. In Salisbury, we had a pretty solid homeless population. There was a lot of homeless people in Salisbury, but coming out here, I see people and they're all drunks and on drugs. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's not a secret and it's not you know what I mean? I rarely bump into the homeless person who's like, I bust my ass every day and I'm on my shit. Like no, that's not the reality of it. These people are in these desperate situations because they choose to do drugs and
Right.
alcohol. And, it sucks to see, it's I seen this guy. I've seen him a couple times since I've been out here and he's always pushing his girl around in the wheelchair and they're both all fucked up all the time. He's got a white t-shirt on that's brown now. You know what I mean? It's just like and they're booking through the city. He's like running with her in the wheelchair, and I'm just like, you're in such a hurry to go
Right.
nowhere.
Literally.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You're in such a hurry to go nowhere in life, and it's just like chasing what? And you're in the same city doing the same thing, staying in the
Stop it.
same couple
Yeah.
blocks, doing drugs, and then what? It's like then what? Getting drunk and then what? Um, it's like nothing good comes out of it. And I talked about it. I touched on it a little bit the other day. It's like something as small as for me, I lost my license and I didn't have my license for like 10 years. All that time I was getting drunk and shit, and I couldn't manage to get my license back. Wondering like, man, they just don't want me to have them. This is too hard. They make it too hard once you lose your
Mm.
license, like I did. It's too hard to get them back. And I got them back within 6 months of being sober. Bought a car within 6 months of being sober. All the things that was like, I just thought they just made it. It was everybody else's
Right.
fault. You know what I mean? They're just stacking the odds against me. They're making it hard on me. It's like the excuses that we make, because we're not the problem. It's not
Right.
us, right? You know what I mean? It's nothing. It's nothing that we're doing wrong. It's
Anybody
always
else?
society and the world and the government and the dope man, and it's always everybody else. Um, and it's just like for my mom, it was like I feel like she used her guilt and her childhood as that was her two things that she
Yeah.
used. She leaned on those things to give her excuse and her ammunition to go get high and throw her fucking life away. And I used to tell her all the time when I go hang out with her in Salisbury, and I'd be like, we're still here. We didn't die. We didn't
Right.
disappear. If you weren't important to me, then why am I still here? Why am I still coming over your house? Why am I still talking to you? Why am I still coming to see you and hanging out with you and you know what I
You
mean? It's like I
know
told
why?
her, it was
Because
like,
her addiction told her she wasn't worth it. Her addiction told her that you guys didn't love her. Her addiction told her that she wasn't worthy. Her addiction told her that this is where she was, the streets was where she was supposed to be. It was hard. I think it was really, I don't recovery, I think, is one of those things where if you really want it, it's easy. Um, it's as simple as a mind made up and working the steps and doing the things that people suggest to you. Um, and I feel like it was not necessarily easier for your mom, but because she definitely had to work for it, and she had mental health factors that played against her as well. Because I can remember days where she would call me and she would be such in a panic, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, is she using, or is she in a mental situation? Like, is she, has she worked herself up, or what's really going on? um and I think a lot of it, she would be so worked up and she would be so worried that everybody was thinking she was using. And I would say to her, it's okay to have these days. It's okay to be all over the place one day. It's okay to not feel okay. And I think she was just so worried that everybody would think she was using, and that it was so far from that. You know what I mean? I don't know. She just,
Well, it's like when I talk about the pain, it's like the pain from her back. It was, that was her big ordeal, and that was what led her
yeah,
back to that lifestyle and from the prescription medication. And it's funny when she got clean, I'm sure she had pain, but it wasn't bad enough for her to get
right,
fucked up. Trick ourselves into thinking that we need this medication, and then eventually, you're not taking the medication to suppress the pain. The pain has subsided, but you're still taking the medication just because
right,
you can. Because now you've convinced yourself that you need this medication and not be in pain. But what the medication's done, it's made you
right,
weak. It's made your tolerance for pain a zero, to where you can't tolerate
right.
anything. You wake up sore. No matter you didn't even do anything, you just waking up sore because this this medication. People don't look at medication for what it is. They don't. It's it's replacing something that your body has the ability to do
Mm,
on its own. Because what did people do before there was all this medication? People were getting surgery done with nothing back in the day. You know what
right.
I'm saying? And they lay in bed, drink some soup, and fucking recover. And when they felt good, they get their ass up and go back to work. It's like it's it's a part of life. And I try to explain that to people all the time. And the medication just it numbs you out while you're on it, and then you become dependent on it, and then you build up a tolerance to it, and then you start to abuse it, and then you're getting high off of it, and it's a nasty spiral down.
Yeah,
um and it's the same thing with the psychological aspect. A lot of people don't understand. They start to they a lot of people get dual diagnosed, and a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the mental things that you're going through is caused by the
right.
drugs. And if you just gave yourself enough time to be clean and to be sober, and you might realize that you don't really have a lot of those mental problems that you thought you had when you first got clean. That the long-term drug use has caused a lot of your mental
Yeah,
issues. And if you just gave yourself a chance to recover, and you gave your mind a chance to readjust, and you gave your brain a chance to, you know, relax, then maybe you find that I don't need to jump from one drug to a
right.
medicine to be normal function in society, because that's our problem to begin with. That's how we fell into the cycle to begin with, is because we're
Yeah,
self-medicating. It might started out it might have started out as a party, but eventually it turns into self-medicating. You're drinking because you had a bad day. You're drinking because you're depressed. You're drinking because you're angry. You're drinking because you're sad. You're drinking because you're alone.
that's
It's like
exactly when I
we've turned
started
it into every.
using. Like, I had a bad day at work, and I was like, all right, let's just get fucked up. You know what I mean? I had never used drugs before, and I had a bad day at work. That honestly probably really wasn't that bad of a day at work.
Yeah, it's like I said, the drugs make us weak. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Drugs make you weak. And a lot of people new in recovery, they don't give themselves a chance to recover because they run right to something else. They get into recovery and then they gotta find something. There's definitely something wrong with them, and they gotta find
Right.
something to fix it quick. You know what I mean? It's like that's what's got you here. Um, like I said, this this applies differently to different people. That there are certain, mental issues that people have that are dangerous. Like I said, people who are paranoid schizophrenics, people who have multiple
Right.
personality disorders, people who have forms of psychosis, and there are some dangerous mental issues, but a lot of those are, set in, they're genetic, they're
Right.
hereditary. A lot of those things are done from trauma. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People who've had like a head injury or something. Um, but for the average, American citizen who, just did drugs all these years, um, a lot of those emotional things that make you think you're crazy, and a lot of those things that you deal with. I have a friend of mine that I am talking through this, and I've been trying to help with this, and it's fucking normal, yo. The shit's normal. It's normal for you to be
Yeah.
sad sometimes. It's normal for you to be depressed sometimes. It's normal for you to get pissed off, and it's even normal for it to all be random. It's normal for you to have crazy thoughts. All that shit's normal, but it's what you decide to
Right.
act on that makes you who you are. If you know, you might somebody might cut you off at a red light, and you might think about riding up beside them and cutting them off and yanking them out the car and fucking them up. That's a normal thought, but it's whether you choose to act on it or not. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's like we don't have to be our emotions. We don't have to be our thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And if you get good enough, you can learn how to start changing those thoughts and changing your emotions and controlling all that shit. But a lot of people don't give themselves a chance to recover, and a lot of people just want a
Right.
crutch. And it's easy when you come from addiction, um, to carry that same attitude over into your recovery. Give yourself a chance. There's nothing wrong with you. Give yourself a chance. Um, and you'll be a better person at the end of it because you've worked through it. You've done it yourself. You did it without all that extra shit. Um, if you need to go see a therapist, go see a therapist. Um, most people coming out of addiction, I'm imagining a lot of you have insurance, because I'm imagining a lot of you don't make a lot of money, or whatever the case may be. You might be able to go see somebody, or you can go to outpatient treatment. I think when I was an outpatient, I was only paying like $6 a fucking
I
class.
didn't have to pay
You
anything
know,
for outpatient.
try to yeah, try to do something that's requires you to do the work. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? Go that route first. Go that route first. Obviously, I don't want to see nobody lose their life over it. If your depression is so overwhelming that you want to kill yourself,
Mhm.
um, then obviously you need to go
Yeah.
get some help. But it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go seek some medication. A lot of people have killed themselves off antidepressants too. So
Yeah.
you just need somebody to talk to, and you need somebody to help you work through all that. That's what the recovery programs are for. That's what sponsors are for. That's what um, rehab is for. That's what recovery houses are for. That's what all that shit is for. It's all there to help you learn how to relive your life. Um, and the number one thing is, you got to do it for you. You got to want it. And that was the breaking point for my mom. Is
Trying to do it
she
for yourself.
never ever even, yeah, she never wanted it for her, and that's why it never lasts. Because when you're only seeing your kids and you're only seeing your grandkids, once every other weekend, or once a month, or twice a month, or once a week, what the fuck you gonna do for the rest of
Right.
that week? You're gonna get fucked up, and then eventually you're gonna be out of control, and you're gonna think you can hide it, and you're gonna bring it into the visit when you're spending time with your family, and then you're gonna piss them off. They're gonna cut you off for a little while and back away and tell you like that, I can't have you around my kids like that, or I don't want to be around you like that. They're gonna get their feelings hurt, and then they're gonna go on another big run, and it's just that vicious
Yeah.
cycle. So you gotta make sure you're doing it for you,
I want to read some of
and that
something.
was her problem.
I wanted to
Nah, go
read
ahead.
some of the comments because I know that you shared this in groups, so some people might not be able to see it. Josh said one of the biggest things she said to me that registered so much was she would want to get clean, but she wanted to be sober for our forgiveness. And when she wouldn't get that satisfaction of forgiveness, she would just feel guilt, which made her want to go back out to drown that sorrow. It was when she wanted it for herself that she finally got that satisfaction, which is true. Um, Heidi said prescription pharmaceuticals are terrible. Heidi, did you see the article about they've been arresting people in the I can't remember if it was pharmaceuticals, but there were a bunch of doctors that were like just handing prescriptions out for sexual favors or writing prescriptions for their Facebook friends and all kinds of things. And they said that if the doctors want to act like drug dealers, they're going to treat them like drug dealers. So they've been starting to crack down on that stuff. Um, Josh said, and I felt that because even in using out of guilt, she still put her family first because that was all she was thinking about. My mother was and is always a good person. I'm just thankful she chose to bring that person back to life before she left. I swear that she knew. I swear she knew her days were numbered. I don't know if she had gone to the doctor and, before and somebody had said something to her or I mean, she was a very intuitive person. I really feel like she knew. And some days I'm like, I wish you would have let the rest of us in on the secret. Josh, that's why I tell people you're not your addiction. And it's hard. I think it's really hard for people to separate that. You know what I mean? Because, step one is accepting that you're an addict. And I think that people get so hung up on that they forget that you were somebody else before your addiction. You know, the steps are important, don't get me wrong. I really like the steps, and the steps really help you work on who you are and what things you need to fix on you on the inside. Um, but I think that's what makes it hard for us to separate the fact that we're not our addiction, we're not our disease. Jamie said that's the hardest for people with mental health. If you aren't on what you need to be on your mental health, they self-medicate to level out. Um, which I didn't really get that until I had a friend whose husband had used drugs. I don't really know what his drug of choice was, but he used a whole bunch of different drugs. And finally, he got clean. He finally stopped using everything. Um, and then not long after that, she had to have him committed to the psych ward because he had literally gone crazy. Um, and once they, got him on the right meds, he stabilized and he was back to his regular self. But I said to her, that's what the case is. He's self-medicated for all these years. So now that he's not self-medicating anymore, his mental health is starting to come out. So Heather said, I have a friend in Maryland that got hooked from a dental procedure and now it's almost 10 years later and she just got arrested for heroin. I reach out to her constantly, but she never responds because she's not living right, I'm sure.
That's why, like, I talked about. I want to touch on a few things. Heidi said there's power and positivity. Um, yeah, there is power and positivity, and I did a whole entire live talking about it. Um, I did a live in the clean and sober group, and I pretty much talked about that most of the time. So try to go find that and watch it. I talk about the power of self speech and little tools you can do, like you know, writing down things you want to accomplish and how you want to accomplish them, and putting the pen to paper and actually writing it down, visualizing it, seeing it, reading it to yourself, reading it to somebody you trust. The same thing, write down 10 things you like about yourself, read it to yourself every day, read it out loud in the mirror, read it to somebody you love and trust that, won't judge you or, you know, um, and do that over time and watch what happens to you.
Yeah.
Watch the change that happens in your life. Put good people around you that are positive people. Um, Even if you gotta, knock off some people that you love. If they're always negative and they're always bringing you down and they're always putting you in a bad headspace, then that's somebody that you don't need to be around. Even if it's just for a season or for a period of time until you get strong enough to where you can overcome
Right.
their shit. Um, and it works. You don't need to go to a medication. That's the kind of things I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff, you're powerful. Your mind is so powerful. You don't even realize it because you've been dumbing yourself down for
Right.
so long and you've been destroying your brain for so long and drowning out your brain and fucking up your liver and ruining your body that you got to give yourself a chance to heal first, and then you got to start once your body heals and your organs start to recover and your health starts to get back on track, then you got to start working on your mind. You don't necessarily have to jump right to a
Right.
medication. A lot of the things that you feel is normal. And I also talked about how I also talked a lot about how we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves. We shouldn't be worrying about trying to point blame and go catch the
Right.
boogeyman. You're the boogeyman. You
Right.
know what I mean? You're the one. Um, you're your worst enemy. There is nobody else. Not the dope man, not even the doctor. Because now it's like ignorance is bliss, but now we're
Right.
aware. Now we know what's going on. Now we know um, just because the doctor went to school or the nurse went to school and they got educated and certified to write you the script doesn't mean you got to take it. It doesn't mean that you have to go fill the script. It doesn't mean that you have to ask for it. You can
Right.
deny it. Um, there's a lot of pain that you can endure. What's worse? Let's say you hurt your hand or you hurt your leg or your ankle or you get a tooth pulled or something. What's worse? Taking the ibuprofen and dealing with some pain for a little while, for a couple weeks, a week, a couple days, a month, or ruining the rest of your fucking life. And as parents, we got to make sure we're carrying that over to our kid, and we're teaching our children. That's all about breaking the chains. That we're teaching our children who to trust, who not to trust. Just because somebody has a plaque on the wall doesn't mean they necessarily uh, are going to do the right thing, and it doesn't mean that what they're going to tell you is good, or what they're going to give to you is good for you. Um, you got to do your own homework and depend on your own judgment. Um, I talked about it before. Like I never really had a problem with drugs, so um, from a personal standpoint, I don't really understand it because I always had something else though. That's the thing. Like I don't know what would have been if I didn't have
Right.
alcohol, but alcohol was always my cup of tea, and it was always my thing, and I liked it better than anything
Right.
else. Um, so that was always my thing. I didn't have any interest in doing drugs because I felt like alcohol was social and I could get away with it, and I could because in the beginning I could function, so I thought like, hey, I could do this, and this is good enough for me. I don't want to risk becoming a crackhead or a dope fiend, so I'm not even going to go down that walk in life. So because I seen what happened to other people around me. I seen my mom. I seen the old heads that were from the '80s that were cracked out and never did shit with their lives. It's like I was like, fuck that. But I seen people who drank on the weekends and they had good lives, so I was like, I'll go
Right.
this route. But it fucked me up all the same. It got me in a lot of shit and fucked my life up for a long time, all the time. Um, but I am still grateful that that was all I had to juggle and that was all I had to deal with because I couldn't imagine um, anything else. That was enough for me. I couldn't imagine anything else that I would have had to try to get over or
Right.
overcome. Um, and it's kind of why you might watch this video sometimes and think, I might have had a problem with opiates or something, but that's not the case. And the reason why I advocate for that more than alcohol really is because that's the climate that
Right.
we're in. And that affected my mother and um, other people that were around me and kids I grew up with, and I think it's more important. because um, people might die from DUI crashes, but um, there are so many people overdosing, and there's so many young lives being lost as a result of it. So I feel like that's what requires more immediate attention. Um, and I don't know any social heroin addicts. I do know social drinkers. So that part is harder to
Yeah.
pinpoint. You know, it's harder for me to determine whether you have an alcohol problem or not. But it's easy for me to determine if you have a problem with dope or cocaine or crack because if you do it, it's a problem,
Right.
period. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that's
Um,
what makes it.
I don't know
I
any.
think it makes it harder for alcoholics because one, because it's legal, two, because it's socially acceptable, you know? And I think it makes it harder for people to realize they have a problem with alcohol because so many other people can drink, once a week or once a month. You know what I mean? Or they can go out and drink with their friends all night, one night, and, don't drink again for weeks. I think that's what makes it really hard for alcoholics because of that. Heidi said, people don't give recovery enough chance. When they start feeling bad, they go right back to what made them feel good instead of staying strong and fighting. And that's why I say to people all the time, life shows up whether you're high or not. Whether you're drunk or not, life is still going to show up. Um, life isn't perfect for anybody. Nobody has a perfect life. Even celebrities that have all the money in the world, or these big famous people that have all this money, they still have real life shit just like the rest of us. It doesn't change. Jamie, I didn't.
Bigger pockets, bigger.
Yeah, Jamie, I did not know that inpatient rehabs have walk-in days now. Is that local to us? Like, I mean, we don't have anything here in Caroline County, but I feel like I saw that somewhere. I feel like you still have to call, like before the walk-in day. Is that true? I feel like I did hear that somewhere. Um, Jen said, meetings and God saved my life, working the steps with my sponsor. I'm not perfect, but I'm 13 months sober today and so grateful. Congratulations, Jen. Yeah, Allie, I really do think she knew. Patty said, addiction changes you, recovery makes you wiser and stronger. You will love deeper and work harder. You will smile at the little things and laugh at the chaos life brings. Now you can say that you are a survivor.
And everybody needs to remember too, and this is something that's important to my mom's story, and everybody's story actually. We have to keep in mind that the drugs and the alcohol, that's something we do, but it's not who
Right,
we are. And um, there's a lot of stigma on addicts and alcoholics, um, people who are going through this pain, and they don't see it as pain. They don't see it as you're you're lost, or you're going through some shit. They just see what you are doing, and they don't really see who you are, because you're masking it behind your drugs and your alcohol. And over time, they start to perceive that's who you are. They start to see you as that person and that person
right,
only. And then when you get clean and sober, it's hard for you to change people's opinions of you, and they kind of hold that against you for the rest of your life. And that's something you just got to deal with. That's another thing you got to overcome. Um, but you have to shoulder the blame because you're the one who chose to go out there. You're the one who chose to live that life for as long as you
right.
did. So you got to deal with the consequences. Everything you do has a consequence.
Wait,
So
here, look at this.
that's on you.
Look
That's
at
not
this.
on.
This was the page I had just flipped to when you started saying consequences.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of people think that when they get clean and get sober, it's okay, back to normal. It don't work that way. It's you got a lot of work to do. You're behind.
So
You got to catch up in life.
I was looking for so your mom went to the Rad House not April, October 15th was the day that we dropped her off. And her and I had started to read the Just for Today when she got there. Like she would call in the morning and I would read the Just for Today. Um, and I was looking for this when we first started the video and I just found it. It was on October 18th. It was We All Belong. Although politics make strange bedfellows, as the old saying goes, Addiction makes us one of a kind. Basic text, page 87. What a mixture of folks we have in Narcotics Anonymous. In any given meeting, on any given night, we'll find a variety of people who probably never would have sat down in a room together if it weren't for the disease of addiction. A member who is a physician described his unwillingness to identify at his first meeting by refusing to go into that room full of junkies. Another member with an extensive background in jails and institutions shared a similar story, except that her shock and surprise stemmed from the realization that there were nice people there wearing suits. These two friends recently celebrated their 7th wedding anniversary. The most unlikely people form friendships, sponsor each other, and do service work together. We meet in the rooms of recovery together, sharing the bonds of past suffering and hope for the future. We meet on mutual ground with our focus on the two things we all have in common: addiction and recovery. Just for today, no matter what my personal circumstances, I belong. And I remember she was so, when I read this to her, she just kept, that's just right on point because, she was uncomfortable at first, She had all these worries and, it took some time for her to get comfortable. You know what I mean? Good luck today, Jamie. You can do this. I expect to hear from you later about how you feel like you did.
Yeah, you got it. You're gonna pass. Don't worry about it. Name that shit. Go in there and know you're already gonna pass the test. You already got it.
Absolutely. I was looking for one. There was a just for today that was talking about like the voice in our head or the voice of our addiction. I probably won't be able to find it now. Yeah, okay, good.
You're obligated. They need you. No pressure though.
Well,
And it's like a lot of times I get on these videos and I might throw something in about my mom here and there, and there's 10, 12 years of bad shit that I could share. There's 10 or 12 years worth of, watching her pass out or her cussing me out or us getting fighting or her stealing money from me, her stealing money from my brother and, you know, us getting physical with her. And there's so many fucking stories that I could share, her crashing my cars and scrapping them and all kind of shit. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's like I could just go, I could go for
right,
days, but that's not the person that I remember. And those 10 or 12 years didn't make up her entire fucking
right,
existence. She died when she was 49, and there was so much good in her before addiction. There was so much good in her after addiction. There was even a lot of good times during her addiction
yeah,
that I had with her. You know what I mean? So, let's remember that. Let's try to remember that as, if any people of people who are not addicts themselves, but they share a life with an addict, or they have an addict close to them, or they love an addict. Um, Remember that that's not who they are, and you can't um you can't hate them for it. You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Hate the disease,
You
not the
can't even really
person.
judge. You can you can dislike the things that they're doing, but it doesn't mean you have to dislike the person that they are. And you being the responsible one who's not using, you being the one who is has all your senses and you have your shit together, you have the ability to love them from a distance, and you have the ability to not put yourself in the bad side of them. You know
Right,
what I mean? Um, but you don't have to add on to their plate, because they're already going through a hard time. Nobody likes being a fucking drug addict, whether they say they do or not. Nobody likes being an alcoholic, whether they say they do or not. Um, we're just habitual creatures, and once we do something for so long, it becomes such a hard habit to
yeah,
kick. Um, and but the mom I remember, is the mom that always had a warming smile on her face, a warm
yeah,
hug. The mom who um would do anything for me, you know, and a lot of the things that people say that are stereotypes, she put to the test. You know, her loyalty was shown over and over and over
Yeah.
again. Um, she did things for me that a lot of parents wouldn't do for anybody. A lot of people wouldn't do for anybody. Um, and I know that she would, if I needed her to, she would put her life out there for me, you know, and she proved it plenty of times. The mom I remember is the mom who, you know, worked her ass off so we could go on vacation once, twice, sometimes three times a year. You know, the mom that, even though we didn't have a lot, we weren't rich, but she worked her ass off so we could experience good things in life, so we had
Yeah.
memories. Um, the mom who handed me down tradition, she passed tradition down to me, which is something that's getting lost. A lot of people don't have a tradition anymore. There is no real family traditions anymore. But she passed that on to me. That's something that I'm carrying on with my kids and my nephews. Um, and you know, it's like the same mom that made sure I had fresh clothes for school, you know, made sure that I got to wear what I wanted, make sure I got what I wanted on
Right.
Christmas. The mom that made sure if I wanted to go do something I could. The mom who gave me a long leash and let me be a kid and let me watch R-rated movies and let me go fucking stay with my friends and let me stay up late and let me go out all night and you know let me live. You know that's who I remember. The mom that let me fucking live my life. Um, and she gave me good advice and you know told me about people I shouldn't trust and you know she had my back and she was there for me if I needed to talk and if I was being quiet she knew when I was depressed, she knew when I wasn't having a good day, and she would talk to me and make me feel better about myself and um tell me all the things I needed to hear when I wasn't feeling good about myself. um Told me she was proud of me all the time, you know what I'm saying? um and was specific. You know, she would tell me all the things that I was doing that I should be proud of and all the things that I've accomplished that her and my dad didn't accomplish at that age. And, you know what I mean? And how I should be proud where I came from and where I'm at now. And, you know, it's just, that's who I remember. That's the person that she really was. That's who Wendy was. And if you only knew Wendy for, you know, some time here and there, then you don't really know who Wendy really was. You know, if you only knew Wendy when she was high, then you didn't really know who
Right.
Wendy was. Um, and I can't say she really maintained very well, but even when she was in active addiction, she shined through a lot of times through that person. That person shined through a lot more than not, even when she was not doing what she was supposed to be doing. Um, there might be a bad day, there might be a bad couple hours in the day. Because I lived with her for a little bit. Um, when she was getting fucked up. And you know, it was like it was bad times, but there was good times too. But I realized what a lot of the bad times stemmed from, it wasn't necessarily the headspace she was in, it was because of the resentment that I was holding towards her that made it bad. And the way I treated her. You know, I treated her like shit a lot of times because I hated what she was doing to herself and I hated um, you know, that she was, you know, short enough because I knew what a good person she was. I knew how great she was as a person, and I felt like she was ripping us off. You know, it was
Yeah.
like um, I felt like I was
Hey,
just
Katie.
I was just sad for my mom because I was missing out on my mom, the person that I knew
Right.
her to be, and but it was me. It wasn't her fault. You know what I mean? Like I realized that after she passed away, um, and I felt a lot of guilt over it because it was like you know, I didn't really have to make her feel any worse than she already
Right.
was feeling, you know. Um, and I kind of learned that now. It's something that I'm carrying with me. That's one of the lessons that I learned from her life and addiction is um, just because she wasn't she wasn't doing what she was supposed to do, it didn't have to bring a reaction out of me. I didn't have to treat her like shit just because um, you know, she was upsetting me because she was living a certain kind of life that I didn't
Right.
approve of. That was her choice. I was grown. I had my own house, you know, my own bills to pay, my own life to live. If that's the life she wanted to live, that's her choice. And I didn't have to make her feel any worse of a person because of it. Um, And it's just something that I've learned, and it's something that I would like to share with you because, you know, if you want to try to help your friend or your family member that's an addict, then just be positive and be supportive and try to help them, but don't bring them down any. You can't. I mean, nothing good's gonna come out of pushing them any further down than what they
Right.
already are. And now don't get me wrong. You don't have to
Right.
enable them. Like even when my mom got clean, when she was um at the recovery house, if she came to me and needed $20, I still wouldn't have gave it to her
Yeah. I don't feel like
because
I don't
I
really feel
told
like
her.
she asked for money while she was there, though.
I'm just saying, like if she needed it, there were certain things that I started to learn that I can just put a boundary up, but I can still loving and supportive with a
Right.
boundary. It's like I told her, like, it's no offense to you, but I'm always here if you need me. If you need me, come get you, or you need me to talk to you, or whatever. But when it comes to anything financial, don't ask, don't put me in that
Yeah.
situation.
She would call sometimes and she would ask for cigarettes or money for cigarettes. And I would be like, okay, well, just come on over while Josh is at work and I'll just give you the rest of mine and then I'll go get some later. Mm. Josh said, and let's commend her for being strong enough to go through it and get through it because my mother didn't die high. The ship was not strong enough to take her out. I don't remember her for her missteps. I remember her for the mother she was, the knowledge she instilled in me, and the person she was for everyone around her. Wendy Hewitt is a rare breed that everybody should be thankful to have been involved with. She was a good woman.
Yeah, and a lot of people thought highly of her. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? She had a lot of people. We grew up in a tight knit community, and a lot of people respected her, and a lot of people um admired her. And most of the people that know my mom, that they didn't judge her like that. They didn't really bring that up when they saw me. They're, how's
You
Wendy
know,
doing?
Miss
You know,
Patty is a good example of somebody who knew your mother. She knew your mom because Miss Patty was a nurse in the emergency room in Chestertown, and so she knew your mother. Um, but even like when I first met Patty, and I talked to her about the events, and when we took your mom to the recovery house, she never judged her. She didn't have anything negative to say, even though she had witnessed negative things from her. She didn't speak of those. You know what I mean? She just Your mom was just awesome. It's hard for me to talk about her today because I literally sit here and I relive every detail of this day last year, you know? And I don't want to cry, so
and it's just like I remember, like when I talk about how like the good person shines through, and the loyalty's tested, like even in active addiction. I had some problems that she, helped me take care of with some people when she was in active addiction, so she was still dependable if it was serious.
yeah,
You know what I mean? For one time I needed like $700 for college, and it was thrown on me last minute, and I didn't have it. She brought it to me in
right.
one day in active addiction while she was doing dope, smoking crack. She managed to bring me $700 cash in a couple hours. You know what I mean? So it's like those are the things that I'm talking about where it's like that person still shines through. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? And is that something that a bad person, or somebody who ain't shit, and all the things that people say about addicts, like that was $700. That shit could carry her
right.
for a minute.
She could have been high a couple days on that.
And I just remember her bringing it to me and like, hurry up and take this. And she was in a big rush because she was probably
Right.
anxious about
Right.
holding it, whether she was going to give it to me or not. Um, and I didn't really ask for it. I just, she asked me what was going on with school, and I just told her about it. And she showed up a little bit later with the cash. So it's like there was a bunch of times like that where, um, if I needed something with my car, or there was a lot of shit that she did. to still, be her role, play her role when she was in active addiction. Um, so that's just like the little things you got to watch for, and you don't really, like I said, you don't have to make a bad situation worse and make somebody feel lower than what they already are. And you just got to remember, the last thing I really want to say is you have to remember it's not
Right.
personal. Nobody's using drugs or getting drunk because they want to
Right.
hurt you or because they don't care about you. It's never personal.
It doesn't have anything to do with you. Um, Even if they're stealing from you or they're using you, it's hard not to take that personal, but it's not personal.
Yeah, and I learned that over the years. Like when she would lie to me about, money when she need to borrow money from me, and I give her, $200 here, 50 here, 300 there, and she wouldn't use it for what she said, and I'd get
Then
all, it
actually,
would be a big
yeah,
deal. I'd be all pissed off about it. And I learned later in life that why am I letting somebody in a weaker spot than me, control my emotions when I can just still love that person and put a
right,
wall up, put a barrier. I'm the one that's more in control. So how about I just still love this person, but just know my limitations and put my limitations out there and just be like, I don't got it or I can't help you. And that's kind of what I was mentioning. You don't have to make the addict's life easy and enable
right,
them, but you can still love them and you can still be supportive of them and you can still show them that hey, you're still family. You're still a part of my
right,
family. Um, and a lot of people, they don't do that part. And I understand. I'm not blaming the people who are with addicts that have a hard time because it's not fair to you, but I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to help you get along because I've been both. I've been an alcoholic and I've been the loved one that was uh being hurt through somebody else's addiction. I went through it with my mom, I went through it with my father. All my family members, most of my family members were drug addicts or
right,
alcoholics. Most of them were alcoholics, but um, you know, but still, so I've grown up in that like in that kind of environment for a long time. My dad was an alcoholic, my grandfather was an alcoholic, my uncle was an alcoholic, my grandmother was an alcoholic, my mom was a drug addict. My dad used to do drugs when he was younger, but he just became a straight up alcoholic. And all that was I seen all that in my childhood. Um, and I just I wish I knew better, but I didn't. And um, so I've been on both sides of the fence. I'm somebody who's been on both sides. I've been the alcoholic and I've grown up with the alcoholic and I've grown up with the addict. So um and that's something that I learned from the other side. That's something that I learned from the person dealing with the loved one who's an addict is um there's no blame to be placed and you don't have to hate them because they're having a hard time and they're making some poor
right,
choices. It might hurt your feelings and it might disappoint you, but you don't have to attack them or assault them or belittle them or make them feel worse because they're already having a really bad time. Um, and like I said, nobody really enjoys being a drug addict or an alcoholic. The only people who do are people who just don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit, you know, that their life's in shambles. And you see them when they might act like they're happy, but then I'm sure at the end of the night they're
right.
depressed, or the next morning they're depressed, or when they have some downtime they're depressed. Um, and that's why a lot of people who do drugs and drink don't even give themselves a chance to sober up or get clean because they don't want to feel it. So they just, as soon as they wake up, that's the first thing they do. As soon as before they go to bed, that's the last thing they do. And that's why, because they don't want to feel that shit. Um, so just keep that in mind.
Shara, do you have anything you want to share about Mama Wendy? I found that other just for today I was looking for too.
And it's the last thing I'm gonna share is it's through the loved ones that the addicts and the alcoholics get clean and sober. Yeah, it's ultimately their choice, but my mom got clean because my brother decided to go get her from jail and put her in a recovery house and help her out. And he told her, "That's the only way I'm gonna come get you is if you agree to
Yeah.
do this." So you just, try to think about it. Like we have the power where we can try to
Yeah.
help them, instead of belittling them and making them feel worse than what they already do. I'm not saying you gotta, like I said, I'm not saying you have to enable them or save them every single time they call, because once they see, because they're
Mm.
clever. Once they see that you're open and you'll help them, they'll abuse it. That's why I said you have to just know how to put that
It's a yeah,
boundary
and
up.
it's a fine line between enabling and supporting.
Now you don't want to be giving them money. You don't want to be, letting them stay with you. Make them feel that shit. My mom was homeless for a long time. Make them feel that shit. You just tell them if you want to get treatment, I'll take you to treatment. You need to go to a meeting, I'll give you a ride to a meeting. Anything other than that, if you need somebody to talk to, you can call me. Anything other than that, you got to just keep your boundary up.
Um, the people that I met with last week, the aunt and the niece, when her aunt had messaged me originally and asked me, told me she was thinking about taking her in, and what were my suggestions. Of course, I told her I would have rules. Curfew, drug screens. Um, if she needed something, financial help of some sort, I said to her, I don't give her any cash. If she needs her prescriptions filled, fine, pay for her prescriptions if you can, but don't just give her cash. Um, because it's a different, because I've had people that, I had another friend who messaged me one day and said that this girl that we both knew, um, was asking her to send her money, and she said she needed to get her prescriptions filled. And she was like an hour and away, and I said to, my response was, don't send her money, get her prescriptions filled here and have her come here and get them, or whatever the case is. You can still help an addict without handing over cash. You don't have to hand over cash to help them. If they need financial help, for instance, they need a pack of cigarettes, they're not going to get high off a pack of cigarettes. They can't sell a pack of cigarettes and get high. If you can do it, buy them a pack of cigarettes. It's simple, it's easy. There's all kinds of things you can do without enabling them. Yeah. So,
Well, I'm gonna tear it out, and we got a doctor's appointment to go to,
yeah.
so
So anybody,
I gotta go pick.
sorry, what were you going to say, Joe?
No, I was just saying I gotta go pick the ladies in
Yeah, I've
Georgia
been
up.
checking the time. So I just want to say, for those that are still on and listening, for those that are local to Maryland, our next event is going to be in August, and it's called Breaking the Chains. And the reason I decided to switch it was, Wendy's from Chestertown. We're all from Chestertown. And Breaking the Chains was something that she wanted to start. She wanted to be able to go into jails and institutions. She wanted to be able to help women. She wanted to help set them up with Vivitrol shots or recovery housing or treatment. Whatever they needed, she wanted to be able to be that person. Um, and she had told me and Shira she wanted, she was going to call it Breaking the Chains. Um, so what I thought would just be perfect, because the date of the event, which is the date that Miss Patty picked, when I asked her, what dates did she have? This was the date she picked. It's the day after my birthday. It's 2 days before my 9 years clean. Um, it just makes sense to me for us to do this event in memory of her, for this to be like a tribute to her. Um, so the plan is that Joe is going to speak, right? Um, and I'll probably speak. And then I have someone else in mind that I would really, really, really like to share her story and her family's story. So I'm hoping they'll be able to do that. So if you're local and you want to come out, we would love to see you. We would love to celebrate her life with you. We have t-shirts for anybody that's interested. They say Breaking the Chains on the front, and on the back they say in memory of Wendy Hewitt. We can switch the name, and I'll put all that information in the comments when I'm done and a picture of the t-shirt. So if anybody catching the replay happens to want a t-shirt, just let me know. I have a goal to sell 50. I think I'm at 20 now, so almost halfway there. Let me read Josh's comment for those who can't see it. He said, last thing I'd like to point out to those struggling with a loved one in addiction, spare those harsh words. Love them from a distance if need be, but don't kick them when they're already down. Trust me, if there's anything I regret about our relationship, it's all the time I cut her down. We reestablished our relationship, and yes, there was forgiveness on both sides, but I don't have her anymore, and those bad conversations will haunt you. Give them their flowers while they're here. Yeah, me too, Patty. She was a one. I don't know if she still is, but she was a one. So I'm hoping that.
I love you too.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for the day. We're gonna go live tomorrow. Do you have a time for tomorrow, Joe?
Her sister will be back at 10, I
In the morning?
believe. Um, yeah, so it'll be 11 your time. I'll probably go to the gym. It'll probably take me like 20 minutes to get my shit together and get there.
I have a board meeting at noon.
So I'm thinking, well, we can go after my workout
Okay.
then. So I'll go work out when this shit gets in, and I should be done by the time your board
Yeah.
meeting's over.
Okay. Sounds good.
How long is it gonna be? Like an hour?
I hope it's, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check the time. I don't know if it's, I can't remember now if it's 12 or 12:30. I think it's noon.
Well, maybe I'll try to get up earlier. If I can get out the door earlier, I'll
Okay.
let you know.
We'll figure it
Because I'd rather do it
out.
before.
We'll be live tomorrow, and tomorrow's topic will be gratitude. So, all right,
Yep.
guys, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.